What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on the Ravens. They let they backed out, in my opinion. They just reneged on the deal that they with Max Crosby, right? And they tried to say that he failed this he failed the physical, with some people saying that's bogus. The Ravens just saw an opportunity to go out and get somebody who was almost probably close to the close to as good as Max Crosby is, but he is not as expensive, right? And so it just seemed like they made this move to back out of this deal on Max Crosby, more like a financial situation than anything, right? And man, first of all, when they even got Max Crosby, I had no idea that the Ravens were in the running. I thought, he may go to the Cowboys. I think was one of the teams that a lot of people was talking about him going to the Cowboys, right? But now, that the Ravens, I was like, oh, okay, now the Ravens trying to really, make some moves and help out Lamar Jackson as much as they can on both sides of the ball, right? So this right here, man, I think it's not a good look for the Ravens to back out. I think this is not the first time that the Ravens have backed out on a player like this. And so, this may cause players to be hesitant to sign to the Ravens because they don't know, like the Ravens are back out. And, if you commit to the Ravens, you might lose out on other opportunities. So it's not a good look for the Ravens. But Jason Whitlock was speaking about this on his podcast, right? And I want to play what he had to say, and then I want to come back and give some of my input.
Max Crosby, that deal, the Baltimore Ravens backed out of that deal, claiming that he didn't pass the physical. Bucky, are you buying the story that Max Crosby is not healthy enough to be a Baltimore Raven?
I'm not buying that because, as you know, Jason, National Football League physicals are subjective, and typically the better the player, the easier it is to pass the physical, regardless of the ailments that a player may have. To me, this seems it kind of smells of the Baltimore Ravens realizing that there might be a better deal on the horizon for them. And given that this is the legalized tampering period where you can have discussions, but the league year doesn't start until 4 o'clock today, they were well within their right to make a hard decision, and maybe an embarrassing one, to move out of that deal where they would have surrendered 2 first-round picks and pivot towards a deal that allowed them to get Trey Hendrickson at a much cheaper cost, but maybe a comparable player in their minds when it comes to sack production.
Okay, in their mind is the key word. You think Trey Hendrickson is comparable to Max Crosby?
I mean, I don't think if you look at the tape that he's comparable, but I would say if you look at the numbers, Trey Hendrickson has put up numbers on par with Myles Garrett and others over the last 5 years. If you look at his sack production, he's right up there with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt in terms of being able to get it done. Now, he's been tucked away in Cincinnati, and some people haven't paid attention to their defense because their defense hasn't been top flight, but he's a good player, and I don't want to dismiss him like he's not a good player. I think with Max Crosby, you can say a lot of things about Max Crosby in terms of his pass rushing ability, his relentless effort, the way that he gets down, but that hasn't necessarily helped the Raiders parlay his success into a lot of team success. I think when we talk about,
well, all right. So if this guy says that Max Crosby has not parlayed, like his success on the field has not really parlayed winning for the Raiders, right? You can say the same thing about Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett just won the sack record this past season, and he putting up some really strong numbers. But look at where the Cleveland Browns are as a team. So I wouldn't, it's so much harder in football to affect winning for one player than say like basketball. So I wouldn't use that as a metric. This is one time where you have to just judge this guy on on what he brings to the table as an individual. So I don't know. I just wouldn't go by the like if the team is winning, then that means that Max Crosby, he don't affect winning because of the team record.
Comparable. Both guys are high end pass rushers. The difference is Trey Hendrickson is over 30 or is at 30 or more. And sometimes when you're looking to do a deal, you don't pay for players that are in the twilight of their respective careers.
And I think that right there to me just question, like, you got an older guy in Trey Henderson, right? And now you had the opportunity to get Max Crosby. You had Max Crosby, and now you're going to bring in an older guy and somebody who's less expensive. Now the Ravens, because this guy Henderson has played on the Bengals, they're very familiar with him because they're in the same they're in the same division as the Bengals. But still, man, Max Crosby is younger with a high engine. That means that he's going to be able to do this for a few more years. And so I think this move right here by the Ravens is going to come back to bite them.
I think I want to play a clip first of Max Crosby saying he wants to finish his career as a Raider. He said this shortly after the trade was announced. This is a comment I didn't like in real time, and now 96 hours later, I'm like, I wonder if this didn't sit right with Steve Bisciotti and the Ravens. Let's play the clip.
I wanted everything good for the Raiders. I bleed silver and black. That'll never change, and I'm a Raider for life. And I truly want to finish when it's all said and done, in a Raiders jersey, whenever that time comes. But for the time being, it's a new day. I'm going to Baltimore, Flock Nation, everybody in the whole city of Baltimore. I got a lot to learn. Everything is going to be new to me, and I'm excited and attacking this head on like I do everything else.
I mean, I don't have a problem with him saying that later on he may want to, he want to retire as a Oakland Raider. As long as he come to Baltimore and he give, he put forth the same effort he did with the Raiders. That's the team that he been with for his entire career. That's where his heart is. And if he being honest about that, I don't have a problem with that. But let me see what is Jason Whitlock's pushback.
What's your reaction to that? Is that a potential red flag?
No, not at all. I think if you've been with the Raiders, I would say this, having played for the Raiders, the one thing that they pride themselves on is when you're a Raider for life. And that doesn't go anywhere. And everyone feels that no matter how long, how much time you spend with that organization, they always treat you as family. So I understand the sentiment that Max Crosby expressed, but I also understood that he was kind of offering an olive branch to the Ravens fans. Hey, I want to be a part of this. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my career, and I need to learn all the things that are near and dear to the hearts of the Ravens and their fans. I don't think this would be something like what he said that would be out of pocket or viewed as out of pocket, where Steve Bisciotti would say, hey, let's nix the deal because he doesn't appear to be all in on being a Raven. I think, look, in the business of pro sports and in the business of the league, they found out after sitting there, hey, maybe we got a better deal on the table with Trey Hendrickson. After some reflection, after hearing the outside noise, maybe they got cold feet at the altar and decided that, hey, we'll walk away from this one, we'll pivot to another one, and we will retain our first-round picks while also getting a player that can give similar production.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't have a problem with what he said. As a matter of fact, I mean, he was honest about the situation. So you don't want a player to tell you just what you want to hear. He's saying his heart is, his heart is still with the Raiders. He felt like he was going to be a Raider for life, but he's willing to put everything he have into the Ravens. So I wouldn't have a problem for that. I think it was the Ravens saw an opportunity to save some money with this guy, Trey Henderson, and they shot this deal down that they had with Max Crosby. Like I said, I think that this is going to come back and bite them in the butt because Max Crosby too. I like Max Crosby, and I like the fact that he's younger. So if the Ravens we're not the, you can have like a 2 or 3 year plan with Max Crosby, whereas though, or maybe even further because the guy's younger. You don't know about this other guy, Henderson, man, because he's older. He's already in his 30s. So, you can't plan that far ahead like you would somebody who's younger like Crosby. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm going to check y'all out in the next video. Peace.